Okay, we're gonna look at the strategy pattern today, and this one is practically the same as the state design pattern, but it's kind of used in a different way. So we're gonna look at an example here. So our example is converting different formats to PDF. And so what the strategy design pattern is used for is implementing different variations of the same generalized process, and then just swapping out those different, they're called strategies, in the context class. So you can use different variations at different times, depending on the situation. Okay, so here, our generalized process is converting some format to PDF. And then the specific implementation strategies are text to PDF, JPEG to PDF, and doc to PDF. So those are three different strategies for converting to PDF format. So let's go ahead and look at the code. Okay, so like I said, it's really similar to the state design pattern. So we're gonna have our context class, and in our context class, we have our variable pointing to whatever strategy we're currently using. Okay, so this points over to our abstract strategy class, which is called toPDF strategy. And it just declares our one function that this is the generalized function that we're trying to implement in each strategy. And it's just called convert, and we're converting the string data, and it's going to take some time, so we return a promise. And then we have our actual three strategies. So we have our text to PDF, we have our JPEG to PDF, and we have our doc to PDF. Okay, now the point to realize here is that each one of these implementations of the convert function is different. All right, so they look the same, but they are different. So this one has text there, this one has JPEG there, this one has doc there, and it has this extra line there. So they are different, and that's the point. All right, and then that strategy is stored here in that variable in the context class. Then we just have these two functions. This one sets the strategy when you pass in a strategy, and this one is just a relay function, which calls the convert function for whichever strategy we have. Okay, so that's the strategy design pattern. Let's actually use this in some client code. Okay, so here's our client. And so we have our converter, and that has a object of the PDF converter, which is our context class. Then we have this from value, and all that is storing the value of whichever radio button is clicked currently. So we have three radio buttons. This is using Angular material, and so we have the text button, JPEG button, and doc button. So this from value just stores whichever one is pressed. So if this text button is pressed down, then it's going to store the text as its value. Okay, and then we have this event handler on convert button click that is hooked up to this button right here, the convert to PDF button. And so when that's clicked, this function will run, and it goes through the switch conditional statement and checks if the value from here is text, JPEG, or doc. And then it sets the strategy of the converter appropriately. And it's doing that using the singleton pattern. This is like what we did in the state design pattern. We used a singleton to store an instance of each one of our states, but in this case strategies. So text, JPEG, and doc. Okay, so we set the strategy on a converter when we click that button, and then we use the run conversion relay function and pass in data. And so that's going to call the convert function on whatever strategy converter has currently. And then it's going to wait for the promise to return, and then it's going to finish. Okay, so that's what's happening. Now let's go ahead and look at this in action. Okay, here we are in the browser. We're going to click on the text radio button. Then we're going to click convert to PDF over here, converting some random data from text to PDF. Wait some time, print's done. So this is the string that we passed into the convert function. And then it says text to PDF. Now if we do JPEG, it's going to be different. Click convert, converting. Now it's JPEG to PDF, not text to PDF. Then done. And then doc, we have this extra line being printed there. And then doc to PDF. And then done. And so that's the strategy design pattern. Again, this design pattern is used for implementing different independent variations of the same generalized process. In this case, converting to PDF, and then we have different variations: text, JPEG, and doc. All right, as for the differences between state and strategy, I'm a little confused on that, but I'll give you my thoughts. And there's a Stack Overflow discussion in the description that you can go read. So check that out, should clarify some things. But how I'm thinking about it is the strategy design pattern. The strategies are independent from the context and the other strategies. So the text PDF strategy doesn't need to know about the JPEG to PDF strategy, and it doesn't need to know about the PDF converter class, which is the context class. It's just completely independent. Whereas the state classes, they need to know about the context class for them to make sense. So from the state design video, which you can watch, we had the lock context class, and then we had the locked state, and we had the unlocked state. So just having the locked and unlocked states by themselves, it doesn't really make sense. You kind of need a context to associate them with. And also the states themselves can know about each other. So for instance, in the locked state, when we ran the toggle function, we changed the lock context class to the unlocked state. So it knew about the unlocked state. In other words, it knew about the other states. Whereas the strategy, they don't need to know about each other, or they don't really, they shouldn't know about each other because they're kind of running different things. So anyways, that's my thoughts on the differences, but go have a read of that Stack Overflow discussion, and that should clarify some things. So anyways, thanks for watching everyone, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.